So 250 years ago, right now, the revolution was well underway. The American Revolution had been started. The Continental Congress was meeting in this building, Independence Hall. And one thing I've been doing every day is just checking letters that the Founding Fathers wrote back and forth to each other. So I figured I'd check today and see if I find anything interesting and share it with you. I've got my laptop right here. So I'm gonna be looking down and checking for letters. There you go. There's Independence Hall. The sky is amazing today behind it. I figured we'd just do it anyway. So there's Independence Hall. Here are the letters for July 15th, 1775. A little shakier than usual today because I'm going to hold the camera myself. Let's start with general orders. Headquarters, Cambridge, July 15th, 1775. Parole, Virginia. The commanding officers of each regiment to report the names of such men in their respective corps as are most expert in the management of whaleboats. When any commissioned or non-commissioned officer is sent upon any detachment or duty of honor or fatigue, or to see the execution of any particular work, he is, soon as the service is performed, to make a report thereof to his commanding officer. It being found advantageous to the public service to remove sundry horned cattle, sheep from the ground upon which they were grazing. That's the bell at Independence Hall. Okay, let's get back to it. It being found advantageous to the public service to remove sundry horned cattle and sheep from the ground upon which they were grazing near Chelsea, to prevent their falling into the enemy's hands, it is earnestly recommended to the several commissaries to purchase such of them as are fit for slaughter of the owners, in order that they may suffer the least loss possible from the unavoidable necessity of removing them from the rapacious claws of our enemies. Colonel Gridley, chief engineer, is desired to report what chevaux de frise are made, and what forwardness those are in that are now making. It is necessary those upon hand be completed without delay. Notwithstanding the orders already given, the general hears with astonishment that not only soldiers, but officers, unauthorized, are continually conversing with the officers and sentries of the enemy. Any officer, non-commissioned officer or soldier, or any person whatsoever, who is detected holding any conversation or carrying on any correspondence with any of the officers or sentries of the advanced posts of the enemy, will be immediately brought before a general court-martial and punished with the utmost severity. The general is alone to judge the propriety of any intercourse with the enemy, and no one else is to presume to interfere. The chief engineer, Colonel Gridley, to order an engineer and a field officer of artillery to go round the lines and roundabouts and redoubts to examine if the guns are placed properly in the embrasures, and if the embrasures are properly made and properly sloped towards the country. The engineer and artillery officer to report to the commander-in-chief as soon as they have obeyed this order. Footnote number 1. A large number of whaleboats had been acquired by Massachusetts authorities for the use of the colony's forces, and George Washington intended to employ some of them for routine night patrols of Boston Harbor, as well as for occasional raids. See George Washington to Hancock, 21st of July, 1775. Number 4, first letter. Footnote number 2. Chevaux de frise were portable obstacles, each consisting of a long wooden beam traversed by wooden spikes 5 or 6 feet long. George Washington planned to use these devices to block the entrances to the various American redoubts and lines in the event of an attack, but he was forced to make other arrangements when it became clear that the chevaux de frise would not soon be ready. See General Orders 18 and 23rd of July, 1775. Okay, next let's read to George Washington from Major General Philip Schuyler, 15th of July, 1775. From Major General Philip Schuyler, Saratoga, New York, July 15, 1775. Dear Sir, since I did myself the honor to write Your Excellency from New York, nothing very material occurred until yesterday, when I received the enclosed letters. The accounts contained in that marked number 1 are truly alarming. In the present defenseless state of the counties of Tryon and Albany, and especially as the assistance I can afford them either of men or money is next to nothing, the few troops at Ticonderoga and Company being at too great a distance and not more than sufficient to guard the posts they occupy. I should have been at Ticonderoga this day, had not the information from Tryon County arrived, which may make my presence there absolutely necessary. If it should be confirmed, I therefore propose remaining here until tomorrow, when I hope to be farther informed. I wish I may be able to proceed to Ticonderoga, as I am very much wanted there. The greatest confusion having taken place in the controversy between the officers claiming the command in that quarter, some have taken the liberty to disband troops. Others refuse to serve unless this or that particular person commanded. The sloop is left without either captain or pilot, both of which are dismissed or come away, much provision wasted or embezzled, and on the 7th instant only 1 barrel of flour at Ticonderoga. I shall have an Augean stable to clean there. I do myself the honor to enclose a return of the forces in this colony. It is doubtless imperfect, as I have been under a necessity of forming it out of the returns which were evidently so. I hope soon to send you a more complete one. Be assured, my general, that I shall use my best endeavors to establish order and discipline in the troops under my command. I wish I could add that I had a prospect of much success in that way. It is extremely difficult to introduce a proper subordination amongst a people where so little distinction is kept up. Our accounts of the disposition of the Canadians and Canada Indians continue to be favorable, though the intelligence is not very authentic. I am Your Excellency's most obedient and most humble servant, Philip Schuyler. Okay, here's an explanation. Schuyler owned a large estate at Saratoga, which included a dwelling house, a store, and mills for lumber, flour, and flax. He left New York City on or shortly after 3rd of July, and on 9th of July arrived at Albany. He proceeded a few days later to Saratoga on his way north to Ticonderoga. Footnote number 1. Copies of 2 letters were enclosed, one of 13 July 1775 from the Tryon County Committee of Safety to the Committees of Safety at Albany and Schenectady, signed by Christopher P. Yates, and one from 14th of July 1775 from the Albany Committee listen to the cicadas. The cicadas are beautiful. And one from 14th of July 1775 from the Albany Committee to Schuyler, signed by Abraham Yates, Jr. Both are in DLC George Washington. The letter from the Tryon County Committee, marked number 1, reported that the committee had heard, quote, that Colonel Guy Johnson was ready with 800 or 900 Indians to make an invasion of this county, that the same Indians were to be under the command of Joseph Brant and Walter Butler, and that they were to fall on the inhabitants below the Little Falls in order to divide the people into two parts, and were to march yesterday or the day before. We have sent off a party of people by way of a scout to find out, if possible, the route of the Indians and to give us early intelligence. Our ammunition is so scant that we cannot furnish 300 men so as to be able to make a stand against so great a number. In these deplorable circumstances, we look up to you for assistance both in men and ammunition to save this country from slaughter and desolation, which we beg you will not be backward to afford us as soon as possible." End quote. The Albany Committee forwarded copies of this letter to both the New York Provincial Congress and Schuyler. In its covering letter of 14th of July to Schuyler, the Albany Committee inquired, quote, "whether it will not be advisable to let the company of Captain Van Dyke, Cornelius Van Dyke, which we find you have ordered up to Lake George, march up to the Mohawk River towards their relief, and as the company has no ammunition, and we have here about 300 weight, whether you will think it proper to furnish them from the store here, and whether you will not think it necessary to send up some of the remainder to furnish the inhabitants." End quote. Schuyler agreed to all three of these suggestions. Early on 16th of July, however, Schuyler learned that the reports of an impending Indian attack were unfounded. He left Saratoga later that day and arrived at Ticonderoga on 18th of July. Footnote number 2. The command of Ticonderoga and Crown Point was disputed between Colonel Benedict Arnold, who commanded a force of Massachusetts volunteers at the posts, and Colonel Benjamin Hinman, who arrived in the area with Connecticut reinforcements on 17th of June. Arnold refused to yield the command to Hinman, but 6 days later, a committee from the Massachusetts Provincial Congress appeared with new instructions which put him under Hinman. Arnold angrily resigned his commission on 24th of June and disbanded his little force of 200 or 300 men. He arrived at Albany on 11th of July and at Schuyler's request wrote a report on the conditions of Fort George, Ticonderoga, and Crown Point. Footnote number 3. The return, dated 15th of July, 1775, and signed by Schuyler, reports a total of 2,857 officers and men stationed between New York City and Crown Point. In addition, there are 11 staff officers on the return, and 90 men listed as dead, deserted, discharged, or not joined. Okay, there's Independence Hall. If you like these letters, give a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.